True. It's funny you say that though, as it's more boring to watch gi jiu-jitsu,
So
but
boring.
I have so much more fun in the gi.
Do you?
I do. There's something about being able to be choked out by my own clothing that
Yeah.
just makes it really exciting.
Yeah.
As a sneaky sort of
I guess.
hidden nuance.
I hate it. Like, I wear it because, like, I have to. And if Roger, if you're watching this, I'm sorry, but I hate wearing the gi. It's the worst. Like, I have so much more fun, like, in scrambles. And, like, I'm pretty lazy. Like, I don't necessarily like, want to, like, wrestle and have some crazy wrestling scramble. But, like, I feel like I catch more submissions in the scramble. And it's just funner for me. Like, I can get put in a really bad spot. And I can just wait it out. I can start like kind of shimmying out of positions to where obviously the gi, like it has a way more friction and you get stuck in positions a lot worse. And my whole gi game's kind of built around my no gi game. So I'm not really using really technical grips or anything. Like I'll grab a deep collar grip and everything's built off of that. And now my grips are so bad. Like if I let go of that collar grip, it just kind of hurts to grab it again. Like it's like if you snow machine or four wheel, like eventually like your hand just cramps into it. It's the same thing. Like once I let go, I'm just like, I don't want to get that again. Or if someone breaks my grip, like as soon as I know they're going for like a hard grip break, I just let go. I'm like, man, it just hurts too much.
So there's this tournament coming up at Legacy.
The quintet tournament.
The
Yeah.
quintet.
Did
So-
you your wife to go with you?
Yeah, she's gonna come.
That's awesome.
I'm excited.
I'm excited for you guys then. Especially like it's good for her to see like what you're doing, like what this soon to be overwhelming obsession is leading to.
Yeah, I think she's happy I have an overwhelming obsession.
It's good. Like you need one, right? Like as adults, like you just don't have them anymore. Like kids, like your parents, like either put you into sports or you want to do sports or you want to get out of the house, you want to do all these cool things. To whereas like as an adult, like you're just like, work. I'm gonna come home and sit down now, and not do anything, or I'm too tired to go hang out with like your friends. Especially like once you're even higher up in age in that adult world, like you just lose those things. So that's awesome. It's awesome that you're just doing it now. Especially like I'd assume not doing any type of grappling since high school. But so the quintet, it's 4 teams, and generally it's five people per team. I guess there was a good amount of people that wanted to do it and sign up for it, so now there's 7 people per team. 10-minute matches, sub only. So after the 10 minutes, if there's no sub within 10 minutes, and both guys are just eliminated, like you just both suck, you're out of here. If the one guy, say like I have 5 people on my team, you have 5 people on your team. If you beat me, I'm out. You go against number 2 on my team. If you beat him, he sucks, he's out. You go against number 3, and you just keep going until you're out. If they beat you, then obviously number 2 comes in, and then it's number 3 on my team versus the second person on your team. If obviously there's 7 people doing it, but the typical is 5. So if both number 5s end up going against each other, which that'd be for like a long day because they can be up to 10-minute matches. But obviously, if you sub someone in a minute, then you're at 5 minutes altogether. But you could potentially be up to like an hour of grappling. But if both number 5s go, and it goes like the 10 minutes is up and no subs happen, they just go to EBI rules. So if you've never seen EBI, EBI overtime, they go to, you get a pick. One person's on offense, one person on defense. They flip a coin, and whoever wins, they get a pick. Or they want to start on your back, or they want to start in spider web, which is just an armbar position. So they put you in dangerous positions, so you don't have to like go through like several minutes of, playing the outside of the mat or like hand fighting or trying to get a takedown to where nothing happens. We're just going to put you in a bad spot, and you either escape or you get submitted. There's a time limit to it too. So if both guys say escape the back if you escape the back in 30 seconds, but I take 35 seconds to escape, then you win because you beat me by 5 seconds. Same with the armbar. But if we both like took up, say it's a 2-minute time limit, if we both took up 2 minutes and didn't escape but didn't submit, then we just go to another round of EBI overtime. So it's real fun. No points involved, so it's fun. Like you can get put in like a worse position and not have to worry about like, oh, they took my back, that's 4 points, or oh, they mounted me, now I'm all these points behind and all this. Like it's you either sub me or you don't sub me.
I like those rules better, honestly, because they leads to more exciting matches.
So much more. Yeah, like if we're worried about points, then say you got a takedown. Like you wrestled, you're going to probably take me down before I take you down. But if you take me down and then you just kind of like stall on top, and for some reason I can't sweep you or something. Well, now I'm down 2 points, and you can just stall, or we can stand back up, and you can just play like the outside of the mat to where like if I take you down out of bounds, it doesn't count, and or if I can't take you down, so you could easily just kind of keep being passive and move away and play the rules. Here, like it's just no rules. Like we're gonna figure out who's better,
Right.
and not who is more strategic. But there is strategy to it with like how you put people out there, like who you want to go first, who you want to go last, and like how you just order your people. Like so, there's still some strategy to it to like have a little bit of fun and get into like the mental aspect of it. But at the end of the day, it's just like who's better at jiu-jitsu.
Well, I'm definitely excited to see it.
It'll be fun.
It'll be a first exposure for me, especially a lot of these new practitioners that I've been meeting, getting to know, rolling with, and then seeing those styles unleashed almost and outside of that classroom setting, but still in a friendly environment.
Yeah, and since it's an in-house tournament, and it's all for charity, so there is a little buy-in per team, but the winning team, everyone's buy-in. I think it's I just don't even have to get into like the whole financial thing, but whoever's team, they get the whole pot and they donate it to the charity, like the local charity of their choice. So it's a great thing, and if you're coming to watch, then it's like a $5 donation at the door, and same thing, it goes like a Toys for Tots or a charity thing, or you can bring a toy for Toys for Tots instead of like the $5 admission, I guess you'd call it. But yeah, like there's gonna be tons of people there, so like for the most part you only know people at the morning class, right?
That's it.
And here like there'll be everyone from all the other classes, like all the the owners, instructors, competitors, maybe other people from other gyms might show up. But yeah, it's just be a fun thing, and like I said, since it's an in-house tournament, then it's just all friendly. I'm not like super big into competing. I've competed one time since I think a white belt, and that was at brown belt in Florida. But I figured like if I want to, then what better way to get back into it than just a friendly in-house tournament? Like
Absolutely.
There's nothing big. It's just a friendly thing, so it should be fun.
But you're no stranger to competitions.
I guess not. So I competed once in Florida, and I was a brown belt. I think I went against a black belt from another state. But it was kind of just a fun, smaller tournament. But they had other people, like traveling competitors and good guys there. So I maybe just felt smaller because like I was in like a big area where everyone is accessible to where Alaska you're just isolated. So yeah, I competed once at brown belt, and that was maybe almost a year ago now. And then I competed twice at white belt, and at white belt it was just horrible. Like I got up there, I don't know how I got taken down or how they pulled guard. I just ended up I assumed they pulled guard because I think I ended up in just closed guard. And
That's where we like to hang out as white belts.
that's where it is, yeah. And yeah, he kept me in closed guard, and I just forgot everything I ever learned at that point at white belt, which probably wasn't much. But he obviously knew more than me, and he beat me. And then I went to the absolute. I lost in that. And I think I competed in no-gi sometime after that. And I think I lost in that too. So I don't do great at competing. Like I just, what it is, like I have kids and I have like daughters, and they really soften you up. My boys, like, you gotta teach them to be like, tough and stand up for yourself and all this. But like when it's like daughters, it's like you treat them like little princesses. So like I'm just like super soft. I don't have that like kill or be killed mindset type of thing anymore. But and it's just like hard like getting out there. Like I feel like it's just a friendly gym roll. So like I'm playing like real lazy, not like, oh, this guy's trying to kill me type of deal. So like, and if they're going like real hard, like 100%, I'm just here like, oh, 60%, let's just do this and get in some good spots and all that. It's just obviously doesn't work well because you're going against someone just as skilled as you, but they're trying really hard. And there's no switch inside of you that says, hey, you have to try hard here. It's just like,
or if that switch comes on, it's fun. Too late.
And yeah, and unfortunately, it just never comes on. Mm-hmm. So hopefully it'll be fun here. But
you used to have a history in MMA too, right?
Yeah. So back then, and that was before kids. Okay. So I guess that's where I was going. Is like I have kids now, and like the switch is gone. But before that, I want to say that was right out of high school. So that was probably in 2007 and 2008. I started getting into some some no-gi grappling. Searched around some gyms around town. I checked out a couple different ones. I did some research, called around. I ended up on this place called Frontier Valley Tudo. I don't think they're around today, but the guy, I've actually been in contact with recently trying to get him to come on, and he said he was down. His name's Danny Malin, my first coach ever. And Valley Tudo is kind of like an all-around mix of things. So, there's like some no-gi grappling, there's Muay Thai, there's boxing, there's wrestling, a little bit of everything. So I ended up there. Didn't take it too serious. I just thought I was kind of like maybe a tough guy in high school, and thought like I could just work with that. Not really the case. But I got in, signed up to fight, and I think in high school the biggest I probably weighed like 195, and like right now I weigh like 170. So I was quite a bit bigger, and like tons of weight training classes. Did sports and athletics and all that. So I was in really good shape. And now I'm just like a dad bod 170 type of shape. And then like I felt like I was just like I could be like a really tough guy, and like I felt like I had not to condone it or anything, but like a bunch of like stupid like fights like outside like street fights type of deal, and just made me believe I was a tough guy. So I got into that, signed up for AFC, which at the time I don't even know what the guidelines or the path is now to get there, and if it comes back or when the last time it was on. You just signed up on the website. You just went in, registered here, put your name in, and they called you. And just like that. Anybody could do it. And I was like, I guess, looking back, I was the definition of anybody could do it. So I did it and trained a little bit, but not serious.
What was your level of experience at that point? Formal training.
Like slim to none.
Any jiu-jitsu at that point?
Just some no-gi stuff. Just that Valley Tudo stuff. And I just didn't take it as serious as I should have. I was fresh out of high school, so like you're literally as dumb as you can be in life, and just testosterone going, making me think I was tough. Yeah. So I got on. I signed up, and again, I don't even know how much training I was really doing. I thought I could probably just cut weight and. Out of high school without working out so much, I didn't have like multiple weight training classes a day. We didn't have BFS anymore, obviously, out of high school. And, no athletics really. These school sports like really keep you in shape. So no scheduled working out. So I lost a bunch of weight because most of that weight was just from lifting and like protein and creatine and all that, So I lost it from not doing it anymore. And then you move out of your parents' house and you don't have money for protein and creatine and lifting and all that now. So I was probably doing like the bare minimum or less than that. And I go in, and so I signed up at 170. I probably ended up losing about maybe 15 pounds for it. By the time like I lost weight just naturally from not working out anymore, lost about another 10 to 15 pounds like of sauna, probably mostly sauna and dieting. And man, I could go into this diet, but basically I just ate cheese, like a slice of brick cheese in the morning. And maybe a slice of cheese and like a couple crackers at the end of the day if I was feeling wild. So that was my diet. And then to lose that more weight was just sauna. So I go into, and my sister's husband at the time cornered me. And I think Maurice Mitchell maybe. They cornered me. And we get into weigh-ins, and it's just the one guy with me at weigh-ins. And I'm like looking around, sizing people up, right? And I'm like, that guy's about my size. Like, I could whoop his ass. That guy's about my size. I'd probably beat him up. And then, like, I'm just trying to figure out who it is, And this was, like, way back when, like, social media wasn't a huge thing yet.
You couldn't do any background research on these guys.
No. But, man, I got a funny story about background research, too. But we'll get through it this one. So I'm looking around, trying to size people up, figure out who it is, who's my size. Turns out, like, not taking it serious, you're pretty small for the weight class that I'm supposed to be in. Or I'm pretty small for the weight class I'm supposed to be in.
You're about 150, 155?
No, I cut down to 170.
Down to 170.
Yeah, so, like, this size right now, except I was a little more out of, like, an unhealthy, probably 180 ish, and then lost some unhealthy weight. And right out of high school, like you're drinking, you're partying, you're doing this, you're staying up all night and just having a good time. So anyways, like I'm looking around, sizing people up, and it was my debut. It's allegedly this guy's debut too. But like my back is to this person who's about to yell this, and the guy's name was Levi Forrest, the Barbarian. And you can make up any name you want, right?
What was yours? Your made up name?
I don't know. It was probably like Marky Mark or something.
Marky Mark?
Something like that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I transitioned from like Marky Mark Robinson, Marky Mark Robinson, and maybe one other variation. I'm just trying to figure it out.
Okay.
So anyways, like my back's to him and this group of people, and all I hear, and like they were stoked to yell this. They were like, Barbarian! And I'm like, so I turn around, and I swear to God, it looked like Matt Hughes with a giant Vikings beard. Way bigger than me, like literally the size of Matt Hughes. Like,
he was stacked.
He was huge. And I turned around and my heart dropped. I was like, I went from like, I could whoop this guy's ass. I could beat that guy up to like, oh fuck, I'm in trouble. So I sit there and like, I'm not standing up anymore. I sit down on the stool. We're waiting for weigh-ins to start. And I swear, like the guy I was with, he like looks me dead in the eyes. He was like, if you want to leave right now, I won't say anything. And like, that's how bad it was. Like, that's how like, he was a barbarian, bro. Like,
wow. So I mean, do you think that's a discrepancy of the fight planning, or
I think
do
it
you
was
just think
just
that was a condition? The condition you were in up against someone who might have been better
who
conditioned.
took it serious. Yeah, it was
I see.
somebody who's an idiot fighting someone who takes it serious, who was like a real weight and real in shape and cut weight to make this weight and be in the best shape he could. And it was me, who was straight out of high school, basically went to work sometimes and just partied and called out of work to party and just be unhealthy and be an idiot against someone who's trying to make a career out of this, I assume. So we weigh in. Nobody. I was like, I'm here. Like, no, we're not going to leave. Like, I'm here. Like, as much as I wanted to leave, like, you can't get there and be like, nah, it's time to puss out.
Right.
Like,
you already stepped through the door.
We're here.
The scale is there.
We're gonna do it. So we go in and we weigh in. We get to the fight night. Like, I'm like nervous. Like, this is the first time like I've had like any real like one-on-one competition. Like, you grew up playing team sports. At least I did. So it's not just you. It's you have a whole team behind you. You have a whole football team, a whole baseball team, your
you can
whole track team.
The workload a little bit.
Yeah. So we get in. Like, I can't even hit pads. I've never even hit pads in my life. And
you've never hit a pad up
never
to this
hit.
point?
I swear, no, never hit pads. And my buddy Maurice, who fights now and does like the 907 wrestling thing now, and his brother Terrence, they're great. Maurice cornered me, and my sister's ex-husband at the time, I don't even remember its name, but Maurice pulls out pads. I'm too nervous to even think about hitting pads, so like we hit pads for like maybe 10 seconds. Horrible hitting pads for 10 seconds. And I'm like, all right, we're just going to like sit. We're going to relax. And we walk out and all this. And it started off with the pads thing, right? And then as I'm walking out, I think they even played like the wrong music. So I'm like, this is just all going downhill quick. So like I'm so in my head now.
Yeah.
Yep, I was crumbling like as we speak. But walk out, the fight starts, and he just kind of rushes me to the cage. I hit him like twice, max twice. And then we're like kind of cage wrestling, but he's more just kind of pinning me up, gets really good head position on me, and I have really bad head positioning. And he just throws this like sneaky uppercut I never saw coming, and I crumble. And I don't remember like exactly getting hit. Like, I watched like the video after, but I get hit, and I don't remember like how I end up on the ground. And luckily, he armbarred me. Like, he didn't beat my ass. Like, he probably easily could have. So I lost. Yeah, the debut, I lost at 170 pounds. I got a call a little bit later to fight again at 170 again. I wanted to take it more serious and like, do a little bit better and like maybe cut to 155 and train a little bit harder, or even in general just train. But again, I'm young and dumb. So I take another fight at 170. The guy I'm fighting, I don't remember his name. he just not burned into my brain like the Barbarian is. So I fight this guy. I call up Frontier Valley Tudo, reach out, and unfortunately, this guy's training there. I haven't been to Frontier Valley Tudo in a while, so obviously, like, that guy's training there. So I trained nowhere for the fight. And
you didn't train for the second fight?
No.
After your experience with the first one?
No, I was that dumb.
You do push-ups at least?
I might have done some push-ups.
Okay.
I do remember vaguely doing some like yard wrestling with my sister's ex-husband at the time, who was like, I believe, a college wrestler. So, I got that going for me. Long story short, I lose.
Submission or knockout?
I got TKO'd. Though I was defending, I was saying I was good, I was doing this, like clearly nothing was like hitting me. But I'm a realistic type of person. If it looks bad, it's probably bad. Or whoever from the outside watching in, if it looks bad, it's bad.
True.
So hey, like I couldn't properly defend myself. So had hey, no worries on my part, I guess we'll say. Third fight, like I'm taking it serious now. I didn't even know if I was going to have a third fight. I think I just ended up going one day and I watched some guys fight at 145 and same thing. Like I should have probably known better, but I was just like, I could whip their ass. And somehow, we get a fight and it's at 145 and I'm probably I weigh like 175 probably. Like I never like quite put the weight on good. I think because I didn't lose it properly. Like I just starved myself and harmed my body type of deal by eating a slice of cheese for breakfast and sauning and just starving myself. So anyways, I get down. I was running short on time to cut weight. I was in the sauna for a while. I got down to 148. So I missed 145 by 2 pounds. But the other guy, still took the fight and all that. So thanks to that guy. We go in.
You didn't have to take that fight.
He didn't have to. At the time too, we're making no money. Right. This isn't 2007. Like, I think the UFC is barely on TV. So we go in and we weigh in. I miss weight by a couple pounds. Still takes the fight, which it's 2 pounds. Why wouldn't you? And like I literally look like I do now, but even more unhealthy. Like I weigh 148 pounds. Like. You can't be 6 foot or 6'1" and weigh 145 pounds.
That's less than I weigh.
Right? But we got down to 148 and we get there. I don't even warm up anything. Like, I just feel good about this. Like, this was like the one I walked into. Like, I wasn't scared of the Barbarian. I wasn't bummed out because I didn't have a place to train. I didn't find another place to train like the second one. This one, I was just like, I felt good going into this one. Probably did like a little more like garage training type of stuff, but not actual at a place. But I go in, I kind of rush him to the cage, I think, get the takedown and pretty much just grapple and ground and pound. Gassed out hard though in the first round. I'm on like he's in turtle, like I have his back, I'm like postured up and just punching. And at one point I just look up at the ref, I'm like, and I'm gassed out. It's more like a please stop this fight, not like what are you waiting for? And, and just keep punching. And eventually I sink in the rear naked choke and I get that win. After that, we had my son. And after that, like just life took over and I had no more time for it until now. And so I want to say I went about 8 to 9 years without doing anything. And got back into it because Mr. Garness messaged me, or I think on Facebook one day, and said, I know like you had some like MMA training before, some grappling training before. If you'd be interested to come in, 6 a.m. There's like nobody here. It's pretty small. And at the time, like I just had like, anxiety, and I was already trapped myself in my house, like doing like the family thing and not just being super social. So like knowing it was a small group of people was like the selling point for me. I was like, perfect. I could do that. 6 a.m. I'm not interfering with my family life. It's 6 a.m. Small group of people. Perfect. No anxiety for that. But even then, I think before that, I thought about going to some noon or evening classes. I had a gi for probably 2 months before I ever trained. And I drove into the parking lot. I drove out of the parking lot several times. And like I'd go in, I'd get to the parking lot, I'd park at one point even. I'd make eye contact with somebody inside who I've never seen before, and I drove off. And then it was harder to go back the next day because, hey, aren't you that guy who made eye contact in the parking lot? I'd be like, I'd leave right there. I'd be so embarrassed.
It's hard to believe that you were nervous about getting into jiu-jitsu.
So nervous. So in high school, like I felt like I was like the pretty outgoing person and like, you know, maybe like a class clown, but you know, social. I was like a little social butterfly maybe. But then like after like you're out of high school, you're like working, you only know like family and work and home. Like it's just easy to like just keep melting into that couch and not do anything. And then when the time comes, they're like, all right, you ready to go outside? I'm like, oh fuck, like outside? Outside's scary now. Oh, new people? I haven't met somebody new in a decade since high school. So yeah, like so that was how I from start to finish how like I ended up at Legacy. But yeah, through like a horrible MMA stint, and just thinking like I was a tough guy and thought I could do it. And then I ended up taking like 9 years off, got my son into it, and he did it for like 2 years before I finally stepped inside Legacy. So he was kind of part of the motivation. Between him and David, like I would have never started probably again. But that was like, I don't know, that was probably a 10 to 15 minute story rant, but of how I got into it. So let's hear your story of how you got into grappling.
Yeah, I actually started grappling in high school. And it was never something that I like really wanted to get into under my own wind. It was actually just a lot of friends were doing it.
Yeah, and just wrestling, like high school wrestling?
Yeah, wrestling. And I thought, you know what, I could try this.
Yeah.
Because I'd played a lot of sports, pretty much everything under the sun. And I'm really glad that I did. Because wrestling was a really unique experience in the sense that you get what you put in. Yeah. Which makes sense for any martial art, really. But
yeah, for sure.
Wrestling was the first that really stuck with me in terms of the amount of effort was my amount of reward.
Yeah. So I wish I would have wrestled in high school. I literally kick myself every day of my life. Since I started to do jiu-jitsu anyway, I kick myself every day for not wrestling because I wish I had like that top game. I wish I could wrestle like on the feet. But in high school, I was that guy who was like, that's gay. And it stopped right there. And I look back now, I'm like, I was so gay. And yeah.
And that's something to be said about it too. I mean, because inherently jiu-jitsu and wrestling are so close to one another.
Right. Yeah. It's like, like any type of grappling, like they're all like right there with each other. And it's just crazy, like why I like no-gi so much now, but I hated no-gi wrestling back then.
Right. And
I was stupid.
That's actually something that I was very fortunate of because walking into jiu-jitsu was also very hard for me. I think for anybody it would be a very difficult milestone. So. You know, that alone is the biggest determining factor of your experience. I actually sat at home and watched YouTube videos about what to expect on your first day at jiu-jitsu.
Really?
Yeah, I did.
Is there good stuff in there?
A lot of great stuff.
Of what to expect your first day?
You know, as somebody, like, I don't know, I'm probably a little over a month in, but looking back at those YouTube videos, if anybody is interested in getting into jiu-jitsu, just YouTube what to expect on your first day. Because what I got from the general sort of concept is that everybody is extremely welcoming. Yeah. Pretty much it was a series of videos from a variety of different gyms and the people that teach there, just talking about how open the community is to teaching and giving knowledge. Because ultimately the success of a gym has everything to depend on the quality and skill of the people that are in those walls. Yeah. And unless the culture is willing to nurture that, then I can't imagine it would go very far in the first place.
Yeah. It's you're right though. Like I'm sure like most of those videos would be like that. Like there's nothing to be afraid of. Like it's just a bunch of like friendly people, and most of them are like probably like nerds or like maybe a little bit older or like they just have like had nothing else, and they just all found jiu-jitsu or whatever they might be. Like there's bikers that go to Legacy. There's Rhett. He's like a 50-year-old elementary school teacher, and like all of them like. You know, I'm sure there's like, you know, plenty of military folk, police officers. Roger's a doctor, and like just everybody that just comes in and like nobody even cares. It's just like, are you nice? Are you good at jiu-jitsu?
Bingo.
Are you my friend?
Are you my friend? And that's actually really cool that you say that because of all the things that I noticed is that on the mat, everything outside of those walls doesn't matter. Yeah. your profession, like your daily life, your philosophies on whatever it is that you do, they all get thrown out the window. And I think that's part of the purifying process of this whole thing. Is that you do get to forget.
Yes, it's probably true. Like, we're just going to bond over grappling.
Right.
And we're not going to bond over, like, if you're religious or what you believe in. We're not going to bond over, like, what your profession is or how much money you make or what you do outside of here. Like, if you're just cool in here, then you're cool for me.
Yeah, because when you're sunk deep in a triangle and you're passing out, like, we're all the same.
I'm a doctor.
It doesn't matter what you are. So, yeah, having that background was great for me, and I'm really happy that I walked in because it's just been nothing but a positive learning experience.
Did you do anything between high school wrestling and walking into Legacy?
Yeah, I did some, like, it wasn't competitive, but I did some, like, recreational wrestling in college.
Did you?
Yeah, I did.
Like for the college or just like while you were in college?
I had actually a pretty cool group of friends who all wrestled in high school.
Yeah.
They wanted to keep it up and stay in match shape.
That's like the perfect thing to do.
It was really awesome. So we spent probably a day a week in the gym just wrestling.
Yeah.
Kind of like in the same vibes of like a no-gi setting, you know? Like, not overly technical, but still working on the movements. And it all came down and cultivated to this one day where a really good friend of mine, his name was Paul Perdue, and after his first year at University of Oregon, he told us that he was going to move back to Ohio.
Yeah.
And we were all heartbroken because this guy was an amazing individual. So we made a bet, which looking back on it probably had no weight, but it was more of an emotional fight than anything else. If I beat him in a wrestling match, he'd have to stay at Oregon.
Did you guys wrestle?
We did. We wrestled hard, and it went the full 6 minutes.
Yeah.
And he pinned me in the last round just at the very, very end.
Yeah.
And I just remember how exhausted I was. And then thinking to myself, if I even beat this guy, like, would that really been enough for him to stay at this college?
Yeah, that was my next question. Like, did he stay?
Probably not. But
Probably not, no.
I think it was a way for us to communicate on a level that wasn't just simply words and just saying, like, deal with it. This is happening. This has been an awesome friendship, but we have to go our separate ways.
Yeah, that's cool. And then, man, you rock climbed also, right?
Yeah, I did. I climbed at Oregon.
I bet that helps a lot. Like, just like you're using like tons of muscles rock climbing, and like all these muscles like you'd never use anything else, which is probably a lot like grappling. You know, you're not like getting like. You're not using the same muscles you'd lift on like a bench press or squats or anything like that. Like, you're using a whole different set of muscles, a whole different set of cardio, which I'm sure is probably a lot like rock climbing.
Very much so, yeah. Rock climbing, as you get better at it, just like jiu-jitsu is a technique-oriented sport.
Yeah.
So me as a white belt, I'm probably using a lot more muscles that don't need to be used.
Definitely, yeah.
Same thing with climbing. Climbing is extremely reliant on balance.
Yeah.
So while you can be a really strong person, I mean, just like anything else, if you rely on your strength, you'll get gassed very quickly. So what you learn in climbing is very much how to use your legs, how to minimize the amount of force you're using with your grip. But at the end of the day, grip strength does matter.
Oh, for
just
sure.
Like jiu-jitsu, technique is important, but if you can't hold a good grip, everything breaks from there.
So I would suck at rock climbing. You know Dave Schumann in the morning class? I think he's like really into rock climbing too.
Yeah, we had a brief conversation about it actually.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'd actually like to pick his brain a little bit about it.
Funny thing about him too, and the other guy Travis in the morning class, I think they're both like some sort of like skiing or snowboarding guides, like helicopter guides. So yeah, like Dave's just a jack of all trades, knows a little bit of everything. That's cool.
We never get into these conversations when we're fighting each other.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah,
that'll help you. That'll help you work on your cardio and to take your focus off of straining every muscle in your body.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you should. So
the story of the mediocre grappler, I just kind of becoming a part of this podcast organically. I never really heard the full story of it.
Yeah. So the whole story, so it didn't even start as a podcast. I was in Florida. I don't remember. So everybody in Florida has like a side hustle. And maybe it's like their main way of making money, but like you either have like a lawn care business or you're doing something, or you have your own thing and stickers on your window saying what you do so people call you. So my thing was I was going to make the mediocre grappler apparel of like shirts and hats and stickers, and eventually get into like some no-gi stuff and maybe put the logo on gis and go that route. eventually, nothing kind of came of it. I kind of ran it by one guy who was in the process of starting something also. This guy Rich, I know in Florida. You could check his stuff out. A lifestyle experiment. He's got some good, like some really cool no-gi stuff. I think they're doing like maybe getting into some gi stuff. I know they put out some belts, rash guard shirts. Pretty cool stuff. If you ever want to check that out, or anybody listening or watching wants to check that out.
What was the name of his brand?
A lifestyle experiment.
Okay.
So I ran it by him, and it was before he really got started up, and I kind of put it past him, but he was already kind of into his thing. And it's just one of those things, like, I didn't necessarily know exactly where to go with it, but if I had someone else kind of paired up that already kind of had the same plan and idea, then we'd figure out together. He was already deep into it, so like he not only had a plan, he had like a blueprint set out in front of him. Like he was already on his way, and his stuff's doing, like I said, good now, and hopefully it continues to do good. So I just kind of like, it kind of put a halt to it. It was also not even originally mediocre grappler. It was going to be premier grappler for like the apparel line.
That's a very different kind of
It
grappler.
is. Yep. And so eventually it kind of got put on hold for a bit. Eventually I got into real estate. Became a realtor in Florida. Not the best choice because I just moved there. I knew nobody and I knew nothing about real estate. Like, you have to know people. I'm in a new city, in a new state, at a new gym, and I know nobody. Being a real estate agent doesn't line up, right? But one thing I could do was, like, I didn't have social media at the time. I deleted it a couple years before that.
Good for you.
Thanks. So I only got it back because I became a real estate agent. And for anyone listening, I'm a real estate agent now. So if you're looking to buy or sell a home anywhere near Anchorage, call me. So I only got social media because being a real estate agent. And at the time, it probably wasn't even smart to do this. I didn't even put my name on it. I just put mediocre grappler and try to create like a little, like, something catchy. So Facebook, Instagram, all that was just mediocre grappler. So, and it was like kind of funny, but like, just a kind of play on words thing. Obviously, like, we're not, mediocre. Like,
I don't think you're mediocre.
Thanks. I think I'm pretty good. But if you call yourself a mediocre grappler, like, it's just catchy and it's fun. So that's where that came from. And then slowly we decided we were going to move back to Alaska. And I knew I wanted to get something going with it. And by this time, I think I changed my name back to Mark A. Robinson II on everything to make it easier found and everything under one little area. But I knew I could do something with mediocre grappler. And maybe it wasn't going to be a clothing line because down there was already one. And then as far as clothing, you're just not going to compete with like Show Your Roll as far as like jiu-jitsu goes. Like, it's just never going to compete. Like, their roots are in, they're well known, like they're like a cult following. So
I still think there might be potential though as a side.
So?
I mean,
there could
maybe
be.
not on a massive scale.
I think eventually, it'd be nice if like we did start putting out like a t-shirt to go like for the podcast and people to support and stickers and all that stuff. It'd be good. Like, once it's really up and going. And up here, there's another one, and I've never completely looked into it, and I don't fully know the guy, but I think his name's Danny Chong. He does an apparel line called Jiu-Jitsu State of Mind, and they have like websites and social media pages and really cool stuff, like really nice stuff. So coming up here and starting an apparel line up here just wasn't going to work because, one, you have the worldwide brands, and then you have the local brand, the Jiu-Jitsu State of Mind local already. So are you going to give up buying that shirt there and buy mine? And how long would it even take to get up to that point to where they're going to choose mine over his? And, why would I make someone choose mine over theirs? And if that even became a thing. But what wasn't here yet, except today what I found out, but there wasn't a podcast for like a grappling-based podcast in Alaska. And not just one that's going to cover grappling, but like local business owners, artists, just anyone that has something to promote. We'll talk about grappling and MMA and this stuff all day, But what better to like, as a home inspector and as a real estate agent, like you have to get your name out there. You have to promote yourself. You have to network. You have to do all these things. So if we have something here to where, one, we can just do it and do it by talking about stuff that we love and that we're interested in. If we can get other people on here to promote them too, why wouldn't you do that? And what better way to do that than having a podcast? And like I said, if we just come on and we can just bullshit and bring people on that, whether they're our friends or not, but they just have local businesses that, we want to support, and we can go with that theme, then like what better way to do it? And it's way more fun than doing like making a t-shirt, right? Like we can come in here, have an hour conversation every week and bring somebody on and meet new people and have everybody that we know meet these new people too. And it just seemed like that was the way to go with it.
I love the evolution and the story behind it. On the topic of clothing, this is like one of those really super white belt questions.
Yeah.
But like, how long do I have to do this before I can wear cool rash guards?
Oh man, tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Yeah. So I had the gi a month or 2 months before I ever started. I had no gi stuff well before that.
Really?
Maybe not well before, probably the same time. I probably bought it all at the same time. But for the point of the story, years before. But I had the coolest rash guards. I had spats like the spandex leggings. Mm-hmm. You know what they are. I think you had like Under Armour ones, right?
Yeah, I have some. Under Armour I feel like is a neutral territory, so I could get away with it.
It is. Like I played some sports in high school.
Yeah, I don't want to be like decked out in fight gear and I'm like haven't really like got my wings yet. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, it'd be really fun if you just showed up in like UFC apparel. That'd be super fun.
No, because then I'd have a target on my back.
But we'll do that when like I'll take you to a new an open mat at a different gym in town.
Yeah.
And I need you to wear a UFC kit.
Nah, man. See, that's hilarious.
That would be so fun.
Yeah, some Venom gear.
Yeah.
Or like some tap out, old school.
Oh, tap out would be fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man.
Like a Affliction.
Yeah.
So I wonder if people still wear that.
That's part of the dilemma though, is like I find myself on the internet a lot looking at gis and rash guards.
It's an addiction.
Yeah.
So keep looking, but once you buy something, like it's all downhill from there. At one point I had like 14 gis, and like I had more no gi stuff than I knew what to do with, and obviously I had way more gis than I know what to do with, and I don't even like the gi. I just bought my first show your roll gi one day, and I was like, this gi is way better than all the other gis. And so I started buying show your roll gis and AMP gis, and they send you a monthly newsletter of what the drop is this month. And as soon as I just had all these ones I didn't know what to do with, I ended up selling them for like $40 to $60 a piece. Wow. To where like some of these were like $300 gis. And like they'll get more expensive. And if you buy them secondhand, like if they're new, but it's like a popular drop, because they drop it and there's a limited amount. So like you could go on 2 minutes after they drop this on the internet and it could be all sold out. So then you go to like a show your roll page on Facebook and you try to buy it, but now instead of $250, it's $500.
It's like Supreme.
Yeah, it is something like that.
I didn't know it was like that intense.
It's like that.
So like how long into jiu-jitsu before you started like massively collecting gis?
So I think I had 2 to start out with, maybe just 1. And I think at some point, maybe by the time I was a blue belt, I had three gis. When I got blue belt, I finally rewarded myself and bought my first show your roll. And after that, it was downhill. So like every couple months, every 6 months, I'd buy another gi. And then if I had this gi, I need a rash guard to match it. I'm going to buy this rash guard too. And then like these shorts came out and I was like, I really like those shorts. And I just got hooked on it. So like I said, once you open that can of worms, like they're all over you.
That's what I'm saying. And I see myself in a position where like I feel it's more important to like prove to myself and also colleagues that this is something I'm actually committed to.
And you're going to prove it by by spoiling yourself?
I don't want to prove it by having a really sick arsenal of gis, but I think at a certain
But it would help.
It would help.
It'll help.
Well, that guy's so committed. He has an injured rib and sits out, but dang, he's got a really nice.
But man, that gi's nice, yeah.
Oh,
but yeah, like it's an addiction for sure. But like jiu-jitsu itself is like an addiction. Like you're either gonna like when you start doing it, you're either gonna like be bit by that bug and obsess over it and let it kind of like run your life, or you're just gonna be like, it's all right, or it's not for me. So like, and to get good at it, like you have to obsess over it.
Yeah.
Like you have to like be all in. And that might just be me, but like I have like an addictive personality. Like, so if I do it, like I want to be all in, and I'm going to be all in, and I have been. So for me, it works that way. There might be someone completely different to be like, yeah, I just do it. I like it. It's all right. And they're getting good too. Who knows? But for me, like you got to jump all the way in. And part of that is buying 14 show your roll keys.
Right. And watching YouTube when you should be doing work.
Yeah, YouTube's always good though. You could learn so much off of that. Like how to show up to your first day of class.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how'd you get into home inspecting?
That's a good question. Kind of caught me by storm.
Did it?
Yeah, I did. A lot of really weird sort of odd job construction style trades through my 20s, basically.
Yeah.
One of which was building food trucks, which was a really interesting niche that involved all sorts of different types of contract work, electrical, plumbing, you name it. And as I started to get a really good understanding of how these systems worked, I started applying that to home building.
Yeah.
I got into deck building, then carpentry and woodworking, framing, and I eventually got to the point where there was nothing around a house that I didn't like to pry into or try to understand.
Yeah.
We at the time too, we had some rental properties that always required maintenance. It was a really old set of homes built in the 50s, so there was constantly something that needed repair.
Yeah.
And I just am a cheap person, and I hate paying other people to do things when I could figure out how to do them myself.
Yeah.
And that sort of stemmed into this notion that, okay, well, maybe this could be a career.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that until we bought our first house in Big Lake, where I had a really positive experience with a home inspector.
Yeah.
He was just very outgoing and friendly. He called us before the inspection to see if we had any questions, which is still stylistically something that I do today. And he laid everything out for us. So there was basically no question of what it was we were walking into.
Yeah.
And instantly I thought to myself, this is something I could see myself doing. You know, I have the knowledge. It required a little bit of schooling and research and testing in order to get the license.
How much, like it's a certain number of hours you had to do for as far as like the schooling goes?
Yeah, so truthfully, the only thing you need in the state of Alaska to receive the license, minus some like professional like insurance and liability, et cetera, kind of things, is you have to pass this test called the NHIE, the National Home Inspectors Examination. Most states will require this as sort of a benchmark. Other states require other things, but for Alaska, that's it. Yeah. And then for new construction, you have to have certifications and other things, but that's a separate type of inspecting. Yeah. And all in all, I studied for that NHIE for about half a year, specifically for that test.
Oh, wow.
And it was just kind of drawn out over time. I was really passionate about doing well at this, so I almost overstudied. Yeah. I didn't want to fail. Plus the test was like $300, so I was like, I'm not going to fail and then pay $300 again. Yeah. And the craziest story as well, without getting into excessive detail, but COVID was happening at the time when I was about to take the test. Yeah. And my wife was telling me, hey, you know, you should probably go take this test because these facilities are starting to shut down. Yeah. And at the time, I was so blinded by this notion of needing to do as well as possible on this exam that I kept telling her, you know what, maybe next week. I need one more week to study. And she goes, if you don't do it now, you'll never take this test. Yeah. Because COVID could have been the zombie virus. Yeah. For all we knew at the time. I guess, yeah. It was like slowly lurking over our shoulders, reading like world news and stuff. So the only facility open at the time was in Seward. And
the testing facility?
The only testing facility that was open. Everything locally had shut down. Yeah. And she goes, we're going to Seward tomorrow. Buckle up. So,
well, good for her. Nice.
I didn't sleep. My heart was racing, and I took the test, and I got a 90-something.
Really?
Yeah, I did really well.
Nice.
And I just remember, like, the hardest that my heart had ever beat was the moment I hit send on that test. Yeah. I could feel it beating out of my chest, and you get instant feedback, so I hesitated to push that next button, and boom, just like that, I saw my score and that I'd passed, and I remember my wife and I going to the edge of the ocean and me screaming at the top of my lungs.
Did you?
I just felt victorious. And the real kicker of this whole story is the next day, that facility in Seward had their first COVID case. Yeah. And they shut it down.
They closed down? Man.
I was able to practice home inspections throughout COVID, which is a really good entry because real estate was really taking off then. Yeah. And I've loved it ever since. It's become not only a passion, but also a hobby and education for me.
Yeah.
And an opportunity to give something to people who are in a somewhat vulnerable state.
Yeah.
That is the home
The
buying
home
process.
buying process, oh, for sure.
You know?
So when I took my first real estate test to get licensed in Florida, they don't tell you your score right away, and they don't even tell you what your score was. They just say pass or fail. So to have that like instant feedback would have been nice, because I took mine and I studied for it. I don't remember what the exact. I think in Alaska and Florida is probably around the same. You had to have 60 hours of learning time, of like book time, which was all online. And then you got to go take the test. So I took the test, and same thing. Like, I was so nervous, and everything, like on these practice tests you take, they just reword the same questions. And like, Jenny has this home here and she's doing this. So you remember Jenny's story, or Phil is getting ready to buy a home, or Phil's a real estate agent. So you remember Phil's story. But then when you go to take the test online, Phil and Jenny aren't there anymore. Like, they're so crazy stories. And just like any other test, like, they mix up the words to trick you and all that. So everything I thought I knew, like, I think I just memorized the questions. Like, I just memorized what was on that practice test. So I was coming in here, and I was like, I'm coming in here so blind now and just nervous. And same thing, before I hit send, I was like, should I go back and like look at everything? Should I do this? Like, and I hit send, and then like, all right. And then they come and walk you out of the room. And the lady must have known, like, I looked like I was not feeling it, because I went to get my stuff out of the little locker they had, and my back was to her. And she was like, turn that. And she was like, sweet old lady, like the nicest old lady. She was like, better turn that frown upside down, honey. I was like, what? I turned around. She was like, yep. I was like, it's like, I wanted to scream like that at the edge of the ocean. But I was in a nice, quiet building. And so, yeah, like, I passed it, luckily. And same thing, I took the Alaska test while I was down in Florida still, and they let me do that. And same thing, I went in there, and all those questions were different. And it was like, oh, man, no way I'm going to get lucky twice. And apparently, like, maybe it just wasn't getting lucky. Like, I actually studied and did what I was supposed to, and passed that one too. But you gotta have like a 70 out of 100 to pass. Like, for all I know, I got 70 right. But for all I know, I got 100 right. I don't know.
Doesn't matter. You passed.
Doesn't matter. Yep. And then now we're here.
So how do you like real estate? What's that?
In Florida, I didn't like it.
Really?
And that was my fault, because I didn't know anything about it. I got into it, it's kind of a long story, but maybe a short one. We can get into it eventually one day. But I got into it, and I didn't know anything about it. Like, I didn't know it was a who you know business. Like, I thought like I was going to get my license and people were just going to call me ready to buy homes and sell homes, and that just didn't happen. And again, like, I'm in a new place. I know nobody. The only people I do know are at my gym, my local gym, where now I'm training at. And guess where I met my broker? He trains at our gym. So are you going to use me to buy a home, or are you going to use the guy you just knew for a decade? Like, you're going to use the guy you knew for a decade. So it just wasn't going great. And, eventually my wife wanted to come back and all that, and got my license here. And immediately here it was better. Like, I joined a team. I work at a great place with a great broker. I worked with people selling homes and stuff in contract, and just had the one fall out of contract, that was like a bite of new reality. Like, everything was going so good. Mm-hmm. And then you get like the worst possible case scenario. Like, they go to contract a week before closing. Like, everything's done. Like, all my work's done. And now you get no paycheck a week before.
That's the hard part about
that was the hard part. And so that was like the eye opener. Like, everything wasn't just like fun, and it wasn't going to be easy. So it's a roller coaster. Like, I like it because it allows my wife to go after her career for once. And it's not me, like, everything's built around my work schedule, which is how our life was forever. And so I like that part. It gives me more time with like the kids, and like I can even like make my own schedule and all that. But on the downside, someone could walk away a week before closing and you lose everything. So it's like an emotional roller coaster, to say the least. But fun, and it's obviously a little bit slow going into wintertime, but we're still going to try to make stuff happen. And when summertime comes around, Yeah. Well, hopefully we get going good.
That's life, man. There's challenges. Like, you can work your very hardest and end up in a mount position, and then life can just sweep you.
Yeah, and they could sweep me a week before closing. Man, we're like an hour into this. That's good. You want to go over this fight card? There's Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus Kevin Holland coming up Saturday. The worst part about that is it's the day of the quintet. So I don't know what time this one comes on, but probably at the time.
Probably exactly the same time.
Probably. It's like a free one. So it probably is in the middle of the day.
But the beauty is at ESPN Plus, you can always watch it later in the day.
I can, but I'm going to I get updates on my phone, so it's going to ruin it immediately.
You got to turn that off.
I know. I should turn it off.
It is hard to watch fights when you know
when you know, yeah.
When you know how they end, or like one thing that I try to do when I watch a lot of like UFC reruns, because there was a good period of time where I wasn't watching it, and I try to not look at how long the video clip is.
That's the part. Like, if you make it through and you don't know who won, that's great.
It's still exciting.
But as soon as you see this clip 7 minutes,
somebody's getting knocked out.
Someone's
round
getting
1,
finished.
2.
Yep. So Stephen Thompson versus Kevin Holland. You know who they are?
No, honestly, this whole card is kind of new to me.
Man, so Stephen Thompson's been around for a while, the Wonder Boy, and I think it's more like a Wonder Man now. He's like 40 years old. Fought for the title a couple times against Tyron Woodley, I guess years ago now, but it seems like it was yesterday. Kevin Holland's kind of he's been in the UFC for a bit now too, but I guess he'd be considered kind of more like the young buck, like up and coming guy. You know who Khamzat is?
Khamzat, yes, actually.
Yeah, so he actually when Khamzat was supposed to fight Nate Diaz, Kevin Holland was on the card. They mixed everything up, and Kevin Holland ended up fighting Khamzat his last fight. Obviously lost to Khamzat, but so now he came back. He's fighting Stephen Thompson, so that should be pretty fun. You know who Rafael Dos Anjos is?
No.
RDA? Who are you? Tai Tuivasa? We're just going to say for a free card, this is a really good card.
There you go.
So Rafael Dos Anjos versus Brian Barberena. I'm pretty sure Brian Barberena just knocked out Robbie Lawler in his last fight. You got to know who Robbie Lawler is, right?
I got homework to do.
You have homework, yeah. But yeah, all good stuff on this whole card. Tai Tuivasa, he was just in a title eliminator for heavyweight. Jack Hermansson's on it. He was a fight or two away from fighting for a title not too long ago. Eric, ya boy, Anders played football for Alabama.
Really?
Yeah. Pretty fun to watch. Always fun to watch. Yeah, so from top to bottom, it's a good card. I said Phil Rowe, he actually had a weird exhibition match against Gordon Ryan on Who's Number One, where Gordon subbed him as many times as he wanted to. So not really fun to watch, but he was on it, so it's pretty fun. So good for him.
Did he put up a fight?
No. I mean, it's Gordon Ryan, right?
Yeah, that's true.
You expect a 170-pound, well, I'm sure he weighed more like 195, almost 200 pounds when he grappled Gordon, but Gordon's a monster. So like an MMA fighter who grapples once in a while to face Gordon Ryan, who grapples for his life, like for a living, it's just not going to be competitive.
Right. Gordon Ryan needs to start getting into striking.
That'd be fun.
I think so.
It could be fun. Angela Hill's on it, Clay Guida, Michael Johnson, Darren Elkins, Tracy Cortez versus Amanda Hebos. That should be good. Amanda Hebos was probably a couple fights fighting for a title not too long ago. So yeah, man. So from top to bottom, it's a really good card for especially free on ESPN. So we'll definitely check that out. Maybe in between matches on Saturday.
Definitely. What time's that quintet on Saturday?
So I believe it starts at 1, and then again it's like $5 at the door. It's like a donation, so an admission fee, yeah, but it's for a good cause. Or you can bring a toy for Toys for Tots. So 1 o'clock at Legacy. If you're listening, you're watching, if you're here, you can convince your wife to go. And it's just be a fun little atmosphere to go check out and watch good jiu-jitsu and have a good time. And yeah, I think that's it.
That sounds great. I think we did good this episode.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think we should end it there.
Is that Biggie and a gi on your t-shirt?
That is Biggie and a gi.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody for tuning in.